Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to rock. Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones, twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, Johnny Woodard, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Adjacent, that's right. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Go to SamTripoli.gold. Use the promo code Tinfoil. Get in on the precious metals game while your fiat money's about to collapse. Precious metals is the way to go. Silver, gold, for as little as $50 a month. You can get it on the game. We thank them for sponsoring the show. Guys, this episode we're about to have with Dark Journalist is one of the best episodes we've ever done. It's a banger. Dude, the info's great. Xavier Guerrero asks incredible questions. I mean, we're talking, this might be peak Tinfoil Hat. We may go, it may not get better than this. Might be the best show we've ever done of all time. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, check out SamTripoli.com. Grab my special. Anything you can do to help me would be greatly appreciated. Just go check it out. All the money goes to help pay off the special for what I had to drop on it. I'm going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the November 11th through the 16th, and then Tampa Bay on the 6th, and then December, and then Cancun at the end of December 11th through the 16th. Anything else, guys? Okay, great. Enjoy this episode. All right, we're very excited to have this next guest on. He is an author. He's a researcher. We're very excited to have him on. Please welcome the Dark Journalist. How are you, buddy?
Sam, it's great to be here. It's great to see everyone.
Now, let me ask you something. Are you okay with the Dark Journalist, or is it just Dark Journalist? Because some, like Scorpions, does not like to be called the Scorpions. They like to be called Scorpions.
It's literally Dark Journalist, yeah.
Dark Journalist. Okay, there we go.
DJ for short.
DJ for short. So we're very appreciative of you coming on our show. For those who may not be familiar with you and your work, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a show every Friday night at 8 o'clock called the X Series, and it's the Dark Journalist X Series. And dark journalism, you can think of it basically as something that goes for the real kind of deep end of the story. So we're into the deep end of the mix. And that gets us deep on the political side, into deep politics. It gets us into the UFO file, and it gets us into the mystery school piece. And what I find very often is those three branches don't really talk to each other very much. So you don't find a lot of the deep state researchers talking to UFO people, and you don't find the UFO people really dealing with the occult stuff. So it's an interesting thing that they all kind of ignore each other. But if you kind of fuse those three branches of knowledge, then you start coming up with something that is deeper and totally original, and it allows you to see things with a wide angle lens. And so that's where I'm coming from with dark journalism. And so if you do dark journalism, you have to be a dark journalist.
I love that. And those are some of my favorite topics too.
Yeah. You've done some great shows on them.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Where does your journey begin? How do you become dark journalist, and like what kicked this whole thing off?
I got into all these topics as a kid. So I was reading like John Keel books when I was 7 or 8 years old, and the Eighth Tower and things like that. So I don't know what set it off really, but it was a lifelong thing. And even when I did sort of more corporate kind of journalist gigs, I always had the dark journalism as a huge sideline underneath. But for me, it's a series of things. I always wanted to see what's behind the world, so what's behind the veil in that sense. So things always go a little bit deeper. And I think what you find when you get into subjects that are on the kind of mainstream accepted level is you're working with thousands of years of perception, with this kind of channel normal thing. And there's all this stuff operating outside of it. And more often than not, I think what you find are people just aren't accustomed to what's going on the outside. So they stick to channel normal on a regular basis. But I think if you go just a little bit deeper, you start to, things start to open up. So I started to get into, reincarnation, psychic experience, and all that stuff. And then geopolitics. So it was like an interesting mix for me. And somewhere along the line, I think the UFO thing just opened up as a huge mystery in the middle of it. So I think what I started to see was that there was a separate system operating side by side with the regular one. And I started to do kind of reports on that separate system. And that separate system once in a while notices it, and they don't like it, I guess you could say. So
they don't like you putting out their secret plans that they've gone through a great extent to hide from you and all of us. But the interesting thing about the UFO thing is, like, I grew up with this notion that there were people out there. Something was out there. It was going to make contact with us. And it was going to be this giant moment in humanity on planet Earth. I just don't know if, like, we're focused enough as a species for this to have that kind of impact anymore. I feel like if they're like, yeah, UFOs exist, would like not to get weird, but like whenever a mass trauma event happens, any kind, positive or negative, I always go to Instagram and see how the Instagram models are taking it, and they tend not to care at all about any of it. So it's interesting to me. I would, in 2024, where everything is just so been cranked up to 10, that we haven't had this kind of big UFO moment that I think a lot of people were expecting. And do you expect that moment to come? And what do you think humanity's reaction to it will be?
No, that's really where the question is, because everything is so distracted and overloaded right now that could even take something on that deep a level. But I think you're seeing a lot of caricatures of the real thing. So you know how we have a lot of UFO hearings in Congress and it's whistleblowers, but they're all CIA people. So it's a caricature of the actual thing. Ooh. Yeah. And so what happens is you look at it generationally. If you go back to 1977 and think about like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's a lot of disclosure in the movie. And, that's almost 50 years ago. The question is, what happens to these waves of disclosure? They had waves of disclosure in the 60s, but it keeps hitting a wall of secrecy. So I think what they decided in 2017 was to go a different route, which was to throw out all the history, all the good investigation around the UFO file and come up with this CIA branch. And the CIA branch, we've done a lot of reporting on them. They came out through the New York Times, the TTSA, Lou Elizondo, CIA, Chris Mellon group. And it's funny because we had Mellon's cousin. That's the Mellon banking family there. And Mellon's cousin is John Warner IV. He's the son of Senator Warner, the late Senator Warner, and Catherine Mellon. And he knows all about what the cousin is up to in the DOD. And he spilled the tea on our show on multiple occasions. So they're planning a UFO threat narrative coming through this congressional hearing process. And Chris Mellon is the DOD billionaire behind it.
So we're talking like an Operation Bluebeam situation.
It is. And Bluebeam was always the street legend, Oh, there's going to be this thing. They're going to fake an alien invasion. And then people would go behind the scenes and be like, oh, Bluebeam's not real. We don't have enough data or whatever. But actually, the street legend of Bluebeam is more accurate because you might not know who the actual people are. But if you think about it, if you go back into a lot of the hidden history, so you've done some shows on the JFK assassination. I've done some documentaries on it. One of the things I found interesting is Fletcher Prouty, who's that intermediary between the CIA and the Joint Chiefs. He came out before he died in 1997, and he wrote, what they used to do with communism as a threat, they're going to do with UFOs and aliens going forward. That's in 97. This is a guy who had seen it all. He'd seen the Kennedy assassination. He'd seen it from the inside. And so we're looking at a real CIA insider there. He was putting it on the record and saying, this is what they're doing. Okay, so we've got 25 years since then. How's it going?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we are. And the congressional thing is big because I've even talked to some of the people who are running those congressional hearings. They don't know anything about UFOs at all. So for them, it is just, for some reason, all these congressional people are discovering it. It's because somebody's in the background there whispering to them, hey, UAP, the technology train, the money train is coming. Just keep talking about it. And so instead of that stonewalling government thing, which has been the rule of the day, they've decided we're going to co-opt it and we're going to bring it forward in this fashion. And that's where you're going to get guys like Dave Grush. And, I've spoken to him and all these people, and they're part of a program. And it's interesting because when I talked to Grush, he said, Chris Mellon said, I can't go on your show. So, that's control. Hardcore. That's not a whistleblower. You're not interested in the truth if some DOD billionaire can control where you go, I mean, just to show up on a show. I thought that was pretty extreme. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So this is the level where it's at. It's almost like it's a war of the narrative now, because what the intelligence agencies can do and what they've been experts at, and they're experts at this since the Kennedy assassination and before, is they can prep the narrative and lay the groundwork for the whole thing. And that's what I think we see a lot with the UFO file, but it's front and center in the 2024 presidential election because you've got Trump, and Trump has a huge family line with the UFO file, and so does Bobby Kennedy, and now they're both working together. That's a big upset. Yeah, that's a volcano.
Okay, let's pin that conversation because I want to hear what their connections are. What do you think the Project Bluebeam is going to look like? I mean, I personally believe, I have this I have weird feelings towards Elon Musk. Like, there's part of me that likes a lot of the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Twitter's been personally good for me in some ways. But there's also this kind of like march towards transhumanism that I'm very nervous about. The new robots got rolled out, and those are like the flip phone version of these robots. It's what they have back at DARPA has got to be like next level insane that they haven't rolled out yet. So he definitely, he's showing up in bath mitt costumes and stuff like that. Johnny has explained why that might not be as crazy as we might think, but it's like, what do you think it looks like? Because part of me thinks this Starlink that he's doing is like going to be the AV unit of this whole show that he puts on, like the lights and the visuals and the sound and all that, IMAX, Dolby Digital sound,
So you're thinking that all the Starlink he sells, he's going to use all of them individually to create the Starlink, the
Bluebeam, yeah. Like that could be like, just kind of think of it in a way of like, almost like the sphere
like a projection grid or something, right? Some kind of
grid.
Like
just a sphere in Vegas where you're kind of looking up and it's just like he's got everything on, and he could just be, I mean, if we're going with holograms and stuff like that, it's possible. But what do you think it looks like?
No, it's a really good point, and that's exactly how they could do it. And he's an interesting figure because he's really five people in one, let's face it. I mean, he's like the Howard Hughes of the 21st century. And it's also very, very mysterious if you go into his background even a little bit. His mother was, and his whole family was part of this archaeological thing looking for this lost civilization in South Africa. I mean, what's going on there? So instantly right out of the gate. But I think he's largely controlled by DARPA because you couldn't do the things that he does without them. They're the ones. So he's acting like a front man. But like you said, there's also this like, I support free speech. I'm in it to win it and all that kind of thing. I think the problem is it's twofold. One, you have a breakaway group, and they've been operating with the secret technology for at least 80 years. I say a lot longer.
So crazy.
Yeah. And so what they're working on is how do you break back into civilization? Now with the publicly funded governments, creating all this stuff, creating the space program, and then you cut off the moon missions, the manned moon missions in 1972. You don't go back. Right? For 53 years, they're planning Artemis now. What'd you do in between? So that's whole secret now. So that's the secret space program, right? That whole piece is just sitting out there, but they've been working on it in the background. So the breakaways try to break back in here, and what do? They come along with Musk. They come along with, the high tech end. And then right now he's like, I don't believe in UFOs, but that'll change because if he's got real satellites out, he sees the stuff all the time, regardless of its origin, So some people might say, this is an off-world group visiting here. Some other people say, there's something here that's advanced that's been operating side by side, parallel with us. And I think you could go in either direction because it's not very clear.
Interesting.
Yeah, on the evidence side, it's not very clear.
That's super interesting because the question becomes, what is it? UFOs, if someone goes, I saw a UFO, I would go, okay, that's military most likely.
Why not both, by the way? Why not both? Why possibly
That's the question.
in
What
symbiosis?
is it? Is it like, we've had people come on that have talked about Aleister Crowley, and he would talk about how like demons were going to be remade into renamed into something.
Yes.
And, he would call them aliens and stuff like that. And so are these aliens? Are these aliens? Are they from other planets? Are they from other dimensions? Are they demons, angels? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Crowley there because if you look at that early version of what he put out as an entity that was communicating with him, it's named Lamb. And I don't know if you've seen those pictures, but it basically looks like a gray alien. So, and he's doing all that interaction with these beings. He's conjuring these beings. But Crowley is not, he wasn't just a black magician. This was a hardcore inside mystery school guy.
Yes.
And he came out of Golden Dawn. And, it was funny because all the Mason groups were like, hey, every time you write a book, we have to change all our rituals because you're letting too many secrets out. So, we know that Crowley was associated with the NASA program through Parsons and, his protege, Jack Parsons, who sets up the OTO in Los Angeles. And, he's doing all the stuff with Marjorie Cameron, the witch of LA. And they do, Babylon Rising and those rituals in the desert in 1947. It is interesting to me.
It does look like an alien
at the same time.
Lamb.
There's Lamb. Yeah. Bingo. And really, you can see it looks, the head is just like a gray. It's rather fascinating. It's got the big oversized head on the regular sized body. And then we get into some of the rituals that he was doing. Well, who is leading Crowley in the rituals? He's doing the most hardcore stuff from scrolls that were kept and rediscovered in the 19th century. He picks those rituals up. Nobody's touched those rituals probably since John Dee or someone like that. And then he gets involved in setting up NASA. So, you're getting into a whole sky religion kind of piece.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. It's so deep. And it's like, it's so deep. Nazis, the more and more I think, because nobody can stop talking about Nazis now. It's gotten, everybody's a Nazi, it's like no matter what you do, if you don't drink almond milk, you're a Nazi. I don't know. There's like, so it's like ridiculous right now. But the Nazis, like this weird kind of love affair that suddenly everybody's having with Hitler on Twitter. It drives me effing nuts. But for me,
the Ye thing too. He came out and he's like, I love Hitler. I love the way he dresses. What's going on back there?
Yeah, I have no clue. Now all this stuff starts coming out about him and the P. Diddy parties. And now we got this weird audio that who knows if it's real. It's just, who knows if it's real, but he's talking about pizza boxes and it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
It's super crazy whether it's AI and what AI is going to do this. But back to the Nazi thing, it's like the connections between the occult and then Antarctica and all of that and Operation High Jump. And it's just so much deeper than like anyone even like we can have this conversation. I can have a conversation with you on it, but people are just so like detached from any of this information. Like,
yeah.
Like what do you, what are your whole thoughts on all that? Like, what did they go down there and see? Did they have a meeting at the White House? Is the missing 411 for real? Because that's kind of the deal they made. Like, I know that's a lot of questions all over the place, but
it's good. Actually, when I'm done with this, I'm going to ask you about what you hear in entertainment circles about that whole Diddy situation. But I will say this about everything you're bringing up here about Antarctica, and this is very important because I'm actually releasing something on November 22nd about Antarctica and the Kennedy assassination. And so this is very kind of key piece, I think, with Antarctica. First of all, it's inaccessible for average people. Actually, people know more about space than they do about Antarctica. You cannot get access.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. And the debriefing that goes on in the skiffs on their way out, you know, God knows if they don't just mind wipe some of them. And there's been a few whistleblowers who've come out of that system, but it is a very controlled environment. So around 2015, you had all these dignitaries going down there. Like John Kerry goes down as the Secretary of State. Then Buzz Aldrin goes down and he tweets weird things about evil. When he goes there, he's medically evacuated. So they're calling in NASA astronauts, they're calling in secretaries of state, and they call in basically the Pope of Russia to go down there. So something was going on. There's some discovery. Yeah, right around 2015, 2016, and it's right before the Obamas get out and the Trumps come in. So that's an interesting overlay. And I think what you have is a big, heavy presence of Lockheed Martin there, controlling the secrecy in and out. That's the biggest defense contractor we have going on, and they're running the place. So every once in a while, you hear this weird thing about like Iran claims certain part of Antarctica, or India is claiming Antarctica. Everybody knows there's some major piece involved down there, but we don't hear about it as part of our regular kind of news cycle. If you go back into the Kennedy assassinations, the weirdest part of it all, I would say, which is that Lloyd Berkner is this physicist who went with Byrd to Antarctica. And Berkner is the person that JFK is going to meet when he's assassinated. So he's going at the Trade Mart to meet Lloyd Berkner, the physicist, and they're going to make some announcement together. That's on record. And so when I started looking into Berkner, he's a key man in the Robertson panel, which is the first UFO investigation in 52. This is a member of the Majestic 12. So he's deep in the UFO file, and he hangs out there in this weird Antarctica on one side, UFO file piece on the other, until Kennedy's going to meet him in 1963. Now, they never have the meeting at the Trade Mart. Obviously, Kennedy gets assassinated on the way. But there's a lot of things about the speech that Kennedy didn't give at the Trade Mart with Berkner. And the only thing that I found on record from Berkner's files was that Kennedy had flown in a flag from the White House to hand to him at the ceremony. So what were they going to say? Hey, we're going to the moon with the Russians? Were they going to announce the UFO file? This is the nature of the mystery around Berkner. So I started to look at deeper things with Antarctica and history. And there's another weird Kennedy JFK piece with Antarctica, because you have the Texas School Book Depository being owned by D.H. Byrd. That name sound familiar? Well, it's the same name as Admiral Byrd. He's his cousin.
Damn.
D.H. Byrd, the oil man, is the cousin of Admiral Byrd, who went to Antarctica. And guess who paid for all the missions? D.H. Byrd. Well, he's the guy that Oswald is going to log into the building for. He owns the building.
Well, hold on. So Admiral Byrd's cousin owns the building that what Oswald was going to go into?
No,
Oswald is in the Texas School Book Depository working for $1.25 an hour stacking books, right? And he gets this job 6 weeks before Kennedy is going to take that route. Nobody even knew Kennedy was coming to Texas at that point. So they install him in this building, as a patsy, basically. But the person who owns the building that he gets hired through is D.H. Byrd. D.H. Byrd is, they call him Dry Hole Byrd because he's an oil man down in Texas. But his big claim to fame is he's the cousin of Admiral Byrd, who goes to Antarctica, Richard Byrd. That's his cousin. And he funds all the missions to Antarctica. So when Kennedy is going by that building, he's going by the funder of all the Antarctica missions.
Dude, that is so crazy.
It's
all super connected.
It is.
Hey guys, the crypto market is getting crazy, dude. Bitcoin's almost over 70,000. You got to look into the crypto market, and there's no better person than James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. He will take you through it. Listen, guys, has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still have done nothing about it? It makes sense. Crypto is complicated and really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. Just simply copy along. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 54,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each, it went on to be well worth $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said to buy it, okay? That one call alone has retired a number of people, including guys in the 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who have copied James, then pause what you're doing and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers will get a full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, but there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of it? Guys, don't waste your time. Go to the site and read it. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's ended money worries for so many. It may just do the same for you. Copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's World Series time. I'm excited. You know why? Because as a kid, I used to love to collect cards. Johnny collects cards. I'm a collector. I'm an antiquer. I love it. And there's no better place to buy, sell, trade, you name it, with cards of all sports than Arena Club. Let me tell you about Arena Club. For the most of us collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting. Johnny does too. But that's some real serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclubs.com. Now it's possible to score gems minted for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slap pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all the possible cards, and clear hit rates on each one of them. Johnny, what has your experience been?
I will say the first time I got a slab pack from Arena, I hit on this huge Mike Trout red of 5 card, PSA 10, beautiful card. I'm still holding on to it. It's worth quite a lot of money. It's a ton of fun. I also have quite a few of the cards in my collection on there. You can go check me out. Just I search my name, Johnny Woodard, on Arena Club. I'm on there all the time. Love it. Great service. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out.
So listen, right now, Arena Club is giving us a great deal. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil. That's arenaclub.com/tinfoil, code tinfoil for 10% off your first purchase.
Because Oswald gets hired for temporary, like they didn't need him or something. I don't know if you ever look into it. Yeah, he was a temporary. They didn't really need him, but he somehow gets the job.
What?
And yeah, he must have been. He must have had the hookup. Someone owned the building there. Yeah, that really. Yeah, it was a temporary. He wasn't there for he hadn't been working there for all that long. It was like a temporary job, like Christmas seasonal.
That is so crazy.
It is.
That is.
Look at Oswald. Oswald has a weird background. That summer, he's working for Guy Bannister, and everybody, there's a whole thing in the JFK movie. They do a section on Guy Bannister, but they leave out the most important kind of interesting fact about Bannister. Bannister he was hard right. He was to the right of Attila the Hun. And then Oswald's supposed to be ultra left, handing out leaflets pro Fidel Castro. So how is he working for the most right wing guy in New Orleans?
Yeah,
If you go back, this is the problem with it. If you track back a little bit with Bannister, in 1947, he's the chief of the FBI in Chicago, and they send him through the Northwest. And what does he do? He's investigating the first UFO sightings. That's what Bannister's job is. And he comes up with the X nomenclature, like the security X files, that whole thing. That's all Guy Bannister. So when you move that up to 1963 from 47, 16 years later, Oswald is working for him in the summer, and he's handing out leaflets, infiltrating student groups, that whole thing. So you've got a UFO stamp around Oswald right off the bat. And it's interesting because when they did the first major investigation after the Warren Commission, they had the Garrison hearings and the Garrison trial. And Garrison, when he went to interview all those employees who worked with Oswald at Riley Coffee Company, this kind of like regular job where he was just working there in the warehouse, they say, oh, he left. He said he was going to NASA. He said he had a job at NASA. So whenever you get around the Kennedy assassination, aerospace, very often I say to people, forget about the Cubans, forget about mafia and all that stuff. It's the real heft in that situation is all aerospace.
Well, okay. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've had guests in the past talk about on the show is how there's very few things all the countries agree on. There's very few things. And there's two of them. Antarctica and space. Yeah. They could be on the verge of nuclear war, and they would still all agree to work together on space and on Antarctica. So there's something there. We've had people on the show say that they thought, and it sounded crazy when he said it, but I kind of like, maybe there's something there, that like NASA is the highest level of the intelligence agencies. Like all of these agencies are kind of under NASA because it's the one thing they all agree on. Even when we think about this space station that suddenly appears in the sky, that we're told it's up there, who's working on it together? Russians and Americans, who are like both like threatening nuclear war with each other, right. But somehow, hey man, in space we all get along. Let's try to figure out if we can find some bacteria out here, right? It's interesting to me. And then again, you get into Antarctica and how it's like no matter where you are or who you are and what your political religious beliefs are, you're working with other people on Antarctica and like having bases and underground stuff and all that shit. It's like it's so crazy to me how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Well, there's no question. I think what it is there's a secrecy level that is so disconnected from regular public life that over time the split became larger and larger and larger. So you have this kind of totally separate lanes of society, and that breeds a kind of schizophrenic situation because the secrecy becomes so heavy. How do you even tell people? They've gone off. The problem is with the science facts, once they discover things, they're starting to move from science discovery to science discovery. But if the regular public is left behind on that, these guys are developing age extension technologies. They're going to live to 150 to 200 years. How do you balance that out with the regular public? Do you fake your death when you get to 100 every time? I mean, so we get into weird things on this, but here's the key, I think, when you're looking at the secrecy aspect, you're talking about space, and think about it this way. If Kennedy's big opening was space, he wanted to have a joint mission to the moon with the Russians. So that was anathema to NASA, because the people who were involved with setting up NASA, von Braun and his whole group that came out of the German rocket program, those guys from Paperclip are deep. They have a deep political animus with Russia. They've just killed 30 million Russians.
Yeah, dude.
So they don't want to share, the UFO file with the Russians. And Kennedy is asking to do this. One of the memos that came out, I think, which is dramatic.
Bro,
yeah,
that's deep.
He's actually saying something that nobody else had said. He said, I want you to get me all of the deep, heavy cases on the UFO side. I'm going to share them with the Russian counterpart. So he sends the memo November 12th of 1963, and they never respond. They're like, oh, yeah. So, but he's saying we want to do this because we don't want them to think there's a nuclear incident because a UFO flies over one of their nuclear bases. So Kennedy was very adept on the UFO side. I think that's a piece of history that needs to be opened up as well, because one of the deep players in Majestic 12 in the early UFO file is Forrestal. And Forrestal is a Kennedy family friend. He takes Kennedy to Berlin after the war when Kennedy's a journalist just walking around. He's not even a politician yet. And Forrestal has shepherded him. But if you go through that whole thing, the problem with Forrestal, he's the first Secretary of Defense. He's like, let's share the UFO file. This makes the most sense. And they're complete. That's anathema to the national security state. So Forrestal is unceremoniously dumped out of a window at Bethesda Naval Hospital.
What?
Yeah.
And that's the famous guy on acid story?
No, that's Frank Olson. That
okay.
is that's an interesting thing they did there as well. I mean, it's kind of the same technique.
Bro, you're like a choose your own adventure. It's like no matter what you bring up, you can spider web into like something for a whole hour. It's so interesting, dude. It's so interesting, dude. Everything you're saying is so mind blowing because everyone's like, it's CIA, it's Mossad, it's the Federal Reserve, and then you're like, oh, it could be aerospace.
Oh yeah,
that is not. Would anyone here on the show ever think aerospace enters the chat?
Nope. It's not on the, what is it, the bingo? It's not the bingo.
No. I would never, ever guess aerospace enters the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I think what they've done, not only did they cover up the official story, and the Kennedy thing is sort of like the blueprint for the rest of the societal development going forward. That's the social engineering blueprint. And what they did was they covered up the original crime, which is a coup that takes place. And then they had a secondary story built in. If you didn't like that original one, then you had this mafia thing. But, I always found that very thin on the mafia side because mafia can't cover up things in the media, for example. The mafia can't change autopsies. Mafia can't influence the entire national security state to stop looking into the case. It doesn't make any sense. So if it was just the mafia, they would have let that out a long time ago. So the mafia, remember, operates on the very bottom level of the deep state with all this.
Yes.
The CIA, yeah. So, we know things about the cases of the Cuban part where they try to assassinate Castro and all the rest. But that's one limited kind of picture of the whole thing. And the fact we used gangsters, certainly in the 50s and 60s, to assassinate people. But on the level of the presidency, this is a totally different operation. You need something that is clandestine, and it comes from a very high echelon of power that reaches way outside of the mafia, So that always came up very thin for me. But aerospace, especially the secrecy around aerospace, I call the group X Protect because their whole mission is to protect their knowledge around
X Protect. I like
X Protect. Yeah. And the way to look at them is, look, they've got this exotic technology. They don't want anyone else to share it, any other country. They don't want to share it with the public, but they want to still continue to use it. So if somebody in public gets close to that thing, what do you do? If you have a president who wants to share it, that's anathema, I think, to those guys. So the X Protect group, they shoot down the X Share people, the people who want to share it and move the culture forward, forget it.
And then if they do share, you got to wonder if it's real information or just misinformation to send you out in certain ways. Here's the craziest thing. I know this is when this show started cooking with gas, my friend Eddie Bravo's like, let's put on a comedy show where we can go talk conspiracies. And then it just ended up us doing dick jokes, but it's still like, that was the initial design of the show. The first T-shirt we ever made, XG, do you remember what it was?
The alien with
alien shot JFK, and we thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever. And now here we are. We're like, there might be actually something behind that. That is so crazy to me.
See, that's interesting. By the way, comedy is an excellent way to open people up to deeper topics. So, that's a very interesting place that you occupy, I think, with all of it.
I think it is. I think you have to sit in the pocket with people now because they're spoon-fed so much hot garbage in comedy right now. It's become way beyond like keep it simple, stupid, that they're willing to go with it, but you just got to sit in the pocket and spit the truth. I realized this a couple nights ago too. It's just like people are hungry for this stuff and just nobody's giving it to them because everybody's trying to put on a show for the suits to get the opportunities to audition and all that stuff. And nobody's really taking care of the audience. I feel the audience.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't think we're living in one of the craziest times ever, at least the appearance of it based on social media. And nobody's talked about it. I say this all the time. We have another show where Johnny and I talk, and I talk about how the Hollywood comedy scene is like the band on the Titanic, and they're just like playing as the boat is going under, and and I think you're right. I think there's a real need for people to start really getting into this stuff and talking about it. And I think it's important, but again, it's like layers upon layers upon layers. Just when you think, the JFK assassination is 9/11 and JFK are very similar in the fact that I think there's so many layers to it, and everyone has their layer, and they're convinced their layer is the layer that is the reason it happened, and all the other layers are just like psyops and crazy. When in reality, they're all probably right because they were all probably working together.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And that's true. You see a lot of factions, but some of that's promoted, by the way. They take a natural disagreement and inflate it. And you see that on the UFO side, I think, with a lot of the things, like I mentioned, the whole TTSA Elizondo thing. They've tried to splinter. And it's weird because he himself said, yeah, I'm a counterintelligence guy. I do counterintelligence. My mission is to splinter the UFO field.
What?
So, yeah, he said it on the record. And he's a very interesting character because he's come out over and over again and lied publicly. So this guy said, I headed up this program, I did this and that. Now he's changed his tune. Well, I didn't head up the program, and he over and over again has done this, but then he's not called to account. What they do, they actually put him on Comedy Central with his book recently. So that's pretty wild. But
was it The Daily Show?
It was The Daily Show, and they put him up there. Yeah, his book is called Imminent, and it's this most ridiculous thing that makes him a hero, And so I went a little into his background. What they said about Elizondo was, the New York Times story came out and said he's a whistleblower. He quit his job because he didn't feel the government was giving the public the real thing on the UFO file. But when I went into it, I found out that he hadn't resigned his job. He still worked for the government. One. He was not a whistleblower at all. And he'd been a CIA counterintelligence guy for 25 years. Well, that's a lot different than what they're spinning out there. And they've just continued to spin that with him and that whole group. And it's not just him. I mean, it just represents the wave of intelligence getting involved in prepping the narrative they're all about the UFO threat. That's their thing. And so they've created the grounds for a UFO defense office. And they have something in government.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. They have something in government.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, the info they do release, is that disinfo or is it just a piece of the pie that they want us to have? What they, the disclosure stuff?
No, they do mix it. They're so far ahead of anything they put out or anything that we've heard about. I'll tell you one interesting trial balloon. There's two things that you can take to the bank in terms of what they've been up to. Here's one of them. So last February, they did the whole Chinese balloon thing.
Yeah.
Where this balloon was going across the United States, and they said, NORAD's never encountered balloons before. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
We have laws against balloons, wartime defenses, since the Japanese sent over poison balloons in World War II.
Yes, and nobody talks about that, kind of invaded America, and no one ever brings it up, like the slowest attack of all time.
Unbelievable. And they killed people with poison balloons over Oregon and Washington State. So we put in all these things against balloons long time ago. And then with the Soviets and everything, come on. So we've done it for years. And so they send out the NORAD commander during this whole thing. And he says, we're shooting down UFOs over Alaska. And the New York Times has a headline, UFOs shot down by NORAD. That is the test balloon. That is, can the public handle this idea that there are UFOs out there? And then if you look at the NORAD commander, he occupies an interesting position. Because if you signaled a state of emergency, who actually takes over? Well, the leader of NORAD is the Continuity of Government COG commander. He takes over. He's the Northcom combatant commander. He actually takes over the entire United States in the event of an emergency. And in this case, if you had a UFO emergency, he becomes the president. And so with Continuity of Government, the program has been there. They actually put it in originally for nuclear attack. So Eisenhower set it up, Truman set it up, and they set up all these bunkers and things to continue the government on. In the case that the regular government was decapitated, they had this secondary thing operating underground. Well, the apparatus grew and grew and grew and grew with less and less oversight. So the whole COG program, what they're doing is very interesting. COG right now has the ability to, under an emergency, to take total control of the United States.
Yes, dude.
And appoint regional governors.
Yes. It's so crazy. Continuation of government is like so nuts. And I think that like so much of what we're seeing is just trying to convince us that there's no hope and we need martial law, which will take like all of our civil rights and the Constitution, just set it on fire. And they never give back the powers ever again. Like it'll never happen. It's so crazy, dude.
Well, they remember the military overthrow in Egypt. They're like, we're just going to keep power until we have elections. Well, it's 15 years later,
100%. You're so right, dude. You're so right.
That's why I don't like this setup with Northcom, because Northcom didn't even exist before 9/11. So they set it up after 9/11. And Northcom is Northern Command. They control the United States now, literally. And so Northcom can be called in at any time to set up martial law style conditions. You never had that before 9/11. So, it changed. That already fundamentally changed America. It's completely extra constitutional activity. And I think when you look at that, you see, okay, they already have a plan. If everything else fails, they have this emergency plan. I'm not saying that they're going to rush in tomorrow and set off COG, but you do hear them talk about it more. It used to be completely off the books. You could not talk about it. And if you go through the history of Continuity of Government, it was the most secret program after the UFO file. And the other thing that I think we can take to the bank on the UFO thing and why it's real behind the scenes is there's a physicist named Robert Sarbarker that I cite over and over again, because he was deep in the government. He was basically the Oppenheimer of his day. And he was on the cover of Time magazine and Saturday Evening Post and all this kind of stuff. And Sarbarker said the UFO file is a higher classification than nuclear weapons. So the secrecy factor is higher with the UFO file. And then in the 80s, these investigators recontacted him and said, hey, what was it you said in the 50s about this? And he said, well, we worked on UFOs. We redeveloped them. And we even found the beings inside were structured. Somebody had made them. They were like insects. And he said, I don't know why they never let that information out. So Sarbarker is a physicist major who went on the record. It wasn't just some whistleblower or some guy in the background that you couldn't verify. Sarbarker was like the top physicist in the country. So we know for a fact they were working on them. And the fact that they never let that information out tells you they've been developing it along the lines in the background. That's the breakaway technology aspect. And it continues on.
So I've sold this. And then we'll get to yours. Hold on, Xavier. I've said this before, and it's always met with mixed reaction of either whatever, dude, or what are you talking about? I really do believe that they have hardwired mysticism. When you get into the occult and all that stuff, I think they've been spending thousands and thousands of years working on how to replicate these dark magic spells so that it replicates 100% of the time, all the time. I mean, you just talked about mind erasing. I mean, mind erasing direct energy weapons. This is reading my thought. I mean, like, this is all Doctor Strange stuff that they've just hardwired, and everybody's just like, I mean, like, everyone's like, oh, this technology is just like, it's so advanced. It's like so technical and robot. Like, no, dude, it is mysticism, dude. It's so much of it is mysticism. The little robot stuff, that's just smokescreen stuff to me. Time travel. I'm sure they like all this stuff they've been talking about. I forget what the name of the technology that Hillary Clinton supposedly used to see the future, and she
it might be Looking Glass.
Looking Glass.
Stuff like that. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I feel like you're the best person I could possibly ask this question to. Do you think I'm onto anything? That we're in, like, we have Doctor Strange technology and they've only rolled out a little of it, and we have like Storm from Marvel comic, like controlling the weather. They're literally manipulating the weather right now. Like what
Absolutely.
are your thoughts?
Well, we had, LBJ in 1961 gave a big speech about weather modification. So we know they have it. If he was talking about it then, and we had a Secretary of Defense who went on record during the Clinton administration, and he spit it out during a Senate hearing, William Cohen. He said, we have weather modification technology. So we know that they have it. They don't like to talk about that, of course. But the psychic part that you're talking about is interesting, because Russell Targ, who was the guy who set up the remote viewing program, he was a physicist. He set it up for the CIA, but then he got away from them because he didn't like what they were doing with it. And I've had many conversations with him and interviews. And what he told me was that when he met Werner von Braun, that von Braun was very interesting because his mother was psychic. What? And people would come to von Braun's mother for predictions, for relationships, for national happenings. Official people would come to her. So von Braun already was psychic. What he asked Russell Targ to develop over at SRI was a machine that could test the astronauts' ESP, because he said, I only want to send people into space who have the most advanced psychic faculty. So he created the machine. Actually, there's still a version of it that exists, the ESP testing machine. So what you're talking about with the tide there, in order to operate that technology, they need people that are psychically advanced. That's where the crossover between, remote viewing and studies of psychic stuff in government programs come from. That's why they're interested in it. And they are very interested in it.
Dude, that is so crazy, man.
Yeah. I know when Tarek said that, I was like, it makes sense that von Braun's mother was psychic, That
totally makes sense. Johnny doesn't believe in psychics. My family's psychic. We have a baby
that's not true at all. I don't believe that you're a psychic.
Oh, but you believe von Braun's family's a psychic, but you don't believe my Sicilian grandmother was psychic.
Correct. You understand.
Okay. We have a baby that sees dead people. Okay. Just please stop.
If you were psychic, you would know that I believe in psychics, just that you're not a psychic. So,
okay. Ooh. Hey guys, listen, we're getting closer to November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. Okay. Is this election close? Who do you trust? The polls, the talking heads, the podcasters? You know who I trust? The traders. That's who I trust. The traders are the best at it, and there's no better place to find out what the traders are thinking than Kalshi. Now, Johnny's done it. I've done it. We've all done it. We've done some. You can go in there and actually place some trades on who do you think's going to win, who do you think's going to lose. Right, Johnny? I mean, tell us about Kalshi, Johnny.
Well, Kalshi, I mean, it's the first place that you can trade on the election in 100 years. The first place to legally trade on the election in 100 years. You can also exchange, trade, bet on any event. I mean, they have look at, you got their website pulled up, actually. What's some of the stuff there? They have political stuff, but if you go down, they have like, what's going to be the Rotten Tomatoes score of the next season of The Witcher?
Whoa, really? Dude, you can bet on all this, dude. This is what we're talking about. This is the action daddy's looking for. I love Kalshi and I love the traders. Whoa,
dude, look at Joe Rogan Look at that. Will Trump have Joe Rogan on? It's already pretty much. You'll make $1. on that bet.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Yeah, because it's crazy, dude. This is where we're at, man. Nobody knows what's real. What polls? Nothing. Nobody knows. Well, guess what? Kalshi.
Oh shit! Elon Musk
Kalshi is the
nominated to the
place to do.
cabinet.
Oh, dude, that'd be the best, dude. Kalshi has already facilitated over 1 billion in trades. The election markets are now live to trade, and you could sign up at Kalshi, which is KALSHI.com/TFH. And the first 500 traders who deposit $50 will get free $20 credit. Come on, dude. 50 for 20? Let's go, bro.
Let's go.
That's the jam. Get in on the trade action on everything and anything. Go check out Kalshi.com/TFH. Xavier, is your question still relevant at this point?
Yeah, I was going to ask him. You brought up them reversing a little bit of the alien technology. What do you think about Bob Lazar? Is he in on it? Is he just goes on Rogan? Do they let him go and talk? Is he? What do you?
Dangerous questions, Xavier Guerrero. Dangerous questions.
Boy, that cuts right to it. Look, I will say this, that what they did with Lazar is they let out the information about Area 51, and they let out information about the crafts and all that. Lazar himself is very sketchy. He lied about his education. He ran a prostitution ring. I mean,
What?
He did. Oh, yeah.
He ran a hooker ring, dog? Nobody ever says that.
In Nevada.
Go ahead, that guy that ran hookers again on his show. Nobody ever said that. And who was he running hookers to? Aliens, dude?
This is kind of post-alien work.
Okay.
But, there's a very dicey...
He's done with the aliens. He went and ran hookers. What? That's the craziest
no question
story
about
I've heard
it.
the whole time.
Yeah. If you look at Lazar, what you have is kind of a snapshot of a deep state player, but someone who's very easy to blackmail in that sense. But here's the interesting thing about him. Did he have low-level jobs in ultra-secure facilities? I think he did, yeah. And I think that they have done enough to prove he was around this stuff. But the way that they put him out there back then, that was the op at the time, And the op at the time was, let's put Area 51 on the map. They had already moved all of this. Area 51 is our fantasy for the 90s.
It's
right?
the gift shop of the it's this like, hey, get a towel, get a miniature. There we go. Thank you for coming. Come back next year.
They still have the Cheers Museum over here in Boston. It reminds me of that. That's pretty much.
Oh, that's so funny, dude. So, because like the whole thing is, the real base is in the mountains, like 10 miles away, right? There's like a carved out mountain that is where the real crazy stuff is, and 51 is the kind of.
Damn. Look at this. What does that say? In 1999, Lazar was arrested for evading a prostitution ring.
Yes.
Oh my God, dude!
Never. Why do we not know that? Why does that not ever get mentioned?
So one of my friends, he drives me nuts, but he is my friend. Trevor Cavallo. He lives in Chicago now, but this fits into your theory about Bob Lazar being like a low end job that they kind of let see this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe in hopes so that he'll go tell people about it in this weird kind of way. Like, Bill Cooper would be like, they showed me this, so I would tell people about it.
Yes.
That's what Bill Cooper. So
you can call it a dangle.
Oh, it's called a dangle?
It is. Yeah.
So this sounds like exactly like a dangle. So his dad was like a handyman at the Chicago Institute of Art or something like that in Chicago. And he said one day he gets a call, and he gets a call from a lower level they'd never been to, but they needed something fixed down there. So he goes down to the lowest level, and he gets off the elevator, and it is a weird energy on this floor. And he walks down the hall, he looks in, and there's like they're running experiments on animals. They're pumping something into horses. There's some monkeys. And he's like, what is going on here? And he keeps walking, and he looks, and there's this giant hangar. And he looks in the hangar, and he says he sees a craft like he's never seen before. And he said, on the craft was some gray thing just crawling around. He didn't know what it was. And then inside the craft, there was some weird green stuff, he said. He goes, he's staring at, and suddenly he turns around, there's guns pulled on him, go, what are you doing in here? We're not supposed to be here. He's like, I just got called to fix something. And they tell him, hey man, if you tell anybody, we're going to take you down. So anyways, they let him go. He doesn't tell anybody.
Wow.
He goes on trips around the world, right? And he would just be on a trip. Let's say he's going to Saudi Arabia. He would suddenly get pulled in during customs, sat in a room, and men in black would come in, sit down, and ask him if he told anybody about whatever he saw.
Yes.
And he would just leave. And Trevor said that his dad was not that creative to make up stories like that. And he didn't tell it. He wasn't told by his dad until his very, very later end of his life days. But that sounds like exactly what you're talking about.
Isn't that interesting? It is. And
I love, by the way, that Trevor just told the person who could reach the most people that he knows the secret. You know, it's like
right now it's out there for sure.
Yeah, now it's everywhere. Trevor Cavallo.
Have you heard that one of the things we've put on the record is that there's a whole line of research about that the men in black are astral projections. They're not actually here.
What?
Yeah. And I'll tell you how this
what can I
works.
just say? I'm sorry. That would apply because how are they getting to an airport that fast? You know, if he's, you know what I mean? If he's been, they're not just men in black waiting outside. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting? There's a story. Dan Aykroyd tells the story. You know, Dan Aykroyd's deep into the UFO file. And he tells a story that he was hosting a show on UFOs for the Sci-Fi Channel. And he's going to do Saturday Night Live. And this is like 2002, something like that. And he's on the cell phone with Britney Spears. And he's talking to her. And as he looks over, two men in black with like a classic 1950s black car in black suits, the whole thing, are looking at him. And he felt very strange. And then he said he turned around and they were gone. And then 2 days later, he found out that his show, the whole thing he was working on, got canceled. The Sci-Fi Channel said, we want to go another direction. And that stuff never came out. So Aykroyd went on record with that, totally serious, not kidding around. So there's a whole line of research about the Sami people who are out there in Finland, Scandinavia, and they have very advanced psychic powers. And at a certain point, the U.S. government recruited the Samis. And so Keel, who was one of the early UFO researchers, he did Mothman prophecies and all that whole thing. So when he was in the 60s, and he got all these men in black cases, he went to all the witnesses and he was like, I have a problem with this. They're saying everybody is Asian. Like all the men in black look Asian. What's going on with this? So he decided, I'm going to take a notebook of every person of every type of race. So like Alaskans, Chinese, Russians, whatever. And I'm going to show them, and I'm going to drill down exactly who the people are who are visiting them. And he said, not 10%, not 20%, not 50%. He said 100% identified the Sami people as the people who were visiting them. Now, it's very interesting when you get into the Sami, and, they've called them Laplanders and things like that. But the very hardcore native population of the Sami, and some of them are, if you look at Renee Zellweger, for example, she's a Sami, and
really?
Yeah. And they have the kind of magical look to them.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's very crazy. They're almost like white, Asian almost, like in a kind of way.
So if you go into their history a little bit, they have a shamanic culture, which is incredibly advanced on the psychic level, and teleporting themselves on an astral level was very easy for them. So when I dug a little deeper on that, I found there was a gigantic migration of Samis into America. And the idea was, they're going to train us on how to handle reindeer. I'm sure that's an intelligence project, but once you start to get to that point, you start to realize all those stories about the men in black, they walk through walls, they disappear, they do all these weird things they can't eat. When they look at you, they can give you a heart attack, all that stuff. That's all psychic. So that is an astral projection. That, to me, goes a lot further than just federal agents. That's the type of programs that we have, and that's the kind of, dark journalism bubbling under, there's something else operational. And if you talk about it in a regular setting, if you can imagine a front page story, psychics being used to terrorize UFO abductees. I mean, that's a weird title, right? But nonetheless, the evidence backs it up. And that's the interesting thing about somebody like Keel, who spent 40 or 50 years on this. There's this gem just sitting in the middle of all of his research, and it's about the Sami.
That is so crazy. That is so crazy. And it's just like, it's so much deeper than anybody ever can imagine. And that's why when people go, oh, Occam Razor, I'm like, dude, no, Occam Razor is a psyop because it's really way, way deeper than all that stuff. And,
Yes.
you know, so this is like, you know, like right now, there's a bunch of people like, you know, Zionists this, Marxists this, Nazis that, all this stuff. But for me, it's like, it's so much deeper than that. It's just so much deeper. It goes, in my humble opinion, goes way beyond the Abrahamic religions. I think Abrahamic religion stuff is, even though they seem to be hurling us towards these Abrahamic prophecies being fulfilled, I just think that's all just this kind of like middle management smokescreen to like what's really at the highest levels, which is this kind of occult, old, like Sumerian, Phoenician, Babylonians, like sorcery, magic, mysticism, whatever you want to like. How based on what you've learned, and maybe this isn't your expertise, but I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on it. Like, how high does the pyramid go, and who do you think's at the top of it?
Well, this is interesting because you have to go on an esoteric level with that. Because if you were looking at it just from a geopolitical level, that's why people come up with all these various things and say, you know, the Jesuits, the Masons, the Jews, whatever it would happen to be. None of that ever works. You know, it all becomes very stylized for one group to go after another group. No, if you really go into it, it's very interesting. Ezekiel in the Bible, there's a lot in Ezekiel, I would say, that gives you a hint that something extra is going on. And people always, you know, go back to this wheel within a wheel, and they're like, oh, he's looking at an alien visitation or something, you know, like an ancient aliens trip. But I've gone very deeply into the Edgar Cayce readings. And Cayce gave 900 readings on Atlantis. And the guy was incredibly accurate on a mystical level. He could diagnose you sitting there and give you a whole thing about your ailments and how to, you know, basically get back to a healthy state just by knowing your address. So, and Cayce had 5 decades of documentation of doing this. When he got into giving readings about Atlantis, it's very interesting because somebody asked him, well, you know, you're talking about Atlantean craft flying around advanced 10,000, 20,000 years ago. Like, can you give us some example? Like, what did it look like? And he said, well, it's very much like Ezekiel's example, except that was much later. So this is very interesting because he's talking about this earlier civilization having advanced technology, and then Ezekiel talking about it maybe around 1000 BC. But who kept the technology in between the time when this great civilization was destroyed? So Cayce gives us a lot of indications, and it's edgy. Actually, the foundation that promotes his work, the ARE, they don't know what to do with that because it's very edgy stuff. You know, when they asked Cayce, well, you know, what did the Atlanteans do? Well, they controlled flight with their minds. You know, they used their minds to do it. And they would also, they say, well, would they fly over mountains? How high was the altitude? He said, oh, yeah, they would fly over mountains. They would fly through mountains. Dematerialization. So they had all kinds of advanced technologies back then. It's an older technology. So when you're getting into Egypt and the Mayas and all that, their legacy cultures from that advanced thing back there. So the whole thing about flight and our fascination with it, etc., is when we got into the 20th century, you know, what Cayce said is that, no, these aren't discoveries, actually. These are memories. So the people who are reincarnating are remembering the technology and plugging it back in. Yeah.
Whoa.
So the only problem is last time they basically blew it up, right? So this is the same group of Atlanteans. They come back in, they have the memory, they create the super sophisticated technology. By the way, I mean, in a very short period of time, we're talking about like 100 years here where we've gone from horse and buggy to space flight. So, you know, we're on the advanced plan at this point. But I think if you go, you know, when you talk about the hierarchy and stuff, if you go back to Atlantis, when you get people like Casey bringing that information out, the Steiner work, there's a whole mystery school edge around Atlantis and their advanced technology way before you get to us. So that's where I think it opens up.
Yeah, I find it so interesting. And like, you know, we've had people come out and say, you know, they believe that Atlantis, a lot of people from Atlantis went to Ireland. There's a big thought. And the reason some of that makes sense to me is because, and this is Sam speaking, is like, I'm part Moor, like when you go back far enough, I have more in me. My grandmother was Sicilian, and you study like, you know, lost civilizations, hidden history of Florida. The Moors were most likely there. This, you know, a lot of the stories we're told in our public schools aren't real. And then you kind of look at like the culture that's pushed on those people and how it's kind of like crazy, like wild, like drinking, partying, nuts. And it's are they dumbing down this very powerful group of people with low vibrational stuff so they can never realize how super powerful they are, because they were great conquerors, great navigators, great explorers and stuff like that. And like the history of Europe and what Europe is, the Bach saga, what is interesting, and like, and all that. Like, like how old do you think our world is?
Oh, it's a lot older. This whole thing, the way that we have civilization 6,000 BC coming into being, it's absurd. And I think enough researchers have proven that, but I don't think they go far enough mystically. This is the interesting thing. And we had Graham Hancock up here. I did an event with him, and he's done great research around how the Egyptians were in a legacy culture from something older. And a lot of those guys put the date of the destruction at 10,500 BC. It's interesting because that's Casey's date about when Atlantis went down, and they all went in different directions. Some of them went to the Mayans, some of them became the Incas, some of them became the Egyptians. But Casey does have a thing in there which is different, I think, from everyone else. He said that there's a hall of records under the Sphinx that the Atlanteans kept, and that is going to open up the whole question around the origins of civilization, and that we haven't discovered that. And when they asked him, you know, for details, he said, well, the Atlanteans placed it there. It's like basically like the world's oldest time capsule.
Yeah.
Oh,
and and it's weird because he places the whole dates of the pyramid at 10,500 BC. But if you go into his readings deeply, he'll say, yeah, when the Atlanteans were doing that, they were doing archaeology to find the best spot. So there was already a culture at Giza before 10,500 BC. So traditionally, the pyramids are 2,500 BC. The Sphinx is 2,500 BC. Casey moves it back to 10,500 BC, but he's saying they're placing that whole thing on a plateau that's actually much older. So they want to place their records in the pyramids there in the right spot because it was the right spot a long time before them. So you're going back a long time, maybe 200,000.
Before even Atlantis, there was a civilization.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I know. So they're doing archaeology, right? So this is the nature of it. And I think the technology thing comes up in Casey's work. It does connect the psychic side. And I don't think you can leave out the kind of mystery school edge when it comes to things like advanced technology. Because especially in Casey's work, he talks about the two-eye stone. And long story short, on the two-eye stone, it's Tuaoi. It's a weird word. He uses it over and over again talking about the Atlanteans, but it's a gigantic power grid in that era during Atlantis. And we did a whole documentary called Hacking Atlantis, which is all about tracking that two-eye stone grid. And he said at a certain point, it did the reverse. It pulled everything down. And so when you go into areas like the Bermuda Triangle, that whole thing, that's the technology operating backwards, creating vortexes and things of this nature. And he said, if you want to find them, if you want to find the ruins of that civilization, you look off the coast of Bimini, it's already rising. So so there's a whole thing there, I think, in the Casey readings about that technological grid, what they used, a gigantic power crystal grid. And so this is the rediscovery, I think, for us of that ancient technology. And so that is a whole hacking Atlantis thing because, people talk about it and it's like, do you want to find an Atlantis that just had like pottery and stuff? No, the whole point is you hear things about something weird going on back there, an explosion. Plato said it went down in one day. How do you do that? That's like a nuclear event.
Yeah, that's something hit big.
Yes.
And just hit reset.
Yes.
And the world came back completely different.
Yes.
And
echoes. There were echoes, legends. So by the time you get to Plato, he's writing about it and he's saying, well, it's actually a relative of mine got the story from an Egyptian priest who said, oh yeah, 9,500 years ago, you guys fought off the Atlanteans. They were coming in and their whole island had gone down, and he places it right outside of the Straits of Gibraltar. So that's the Atlantic Ocean. I know people do this thing now with Atlantis. They put it all over the place, but the literature has it on one side, the Mediterranean, on the other side, the Gulf of Mexico. There's no getting around that. And, it's not Antarctica. It's not in India or whatever. Atlantis was right in the Atlantic. And Casey said the opening for that was in Bimini and that it would rise and that we would be able to see it. And you do have the Bimini Road and things down there. So what the nice part of that is we can get access to it, unlike Antarctica.
or like the library at the Vatican. Like what kind of like knowledge is in there that you would just be like, oh, this unlocks everything and the world's a different place.
Exactly. You've got it. They have it already. And whenever a major discovery happens, they check in with them first because they have it in the library. It's an interesting story, actually, just to round out the whole Atlantis thing. There was a researcher, a woman, Paulina Zalitsky, who was originally from Ukraine and under the USSR and stuff. And they sent her to Cuba to do some underwater investigations, and she defected to Canada. And then later, Castro hired her, and he said, oh, I want to find, Spanish galleons off the coast. And this Zalitsky woman, she, with her oceanographer team, went off the western tip of Cuba and found, she said, an entire metropolis, a whole city. And she said as soon as she found it, the Cuban Navy booted her out of there. They put her in a Mexican prison for 10 days to scare her. So she went back to Canada. And but she found this incredible thing, and she, in her book, where she makes these references now in this book, she won't talk about the actual event, but she makes these references in the book that Castro and the Pope got together in 1998 to certify that these were Atlantean ruins. And Castro did, in fact, he went down to Cuba. Castro was there, and the Pope came down to Cuba to visit. It was the first papal visit to Cuba. And he's down there, and everyone wonders, why did the Pope do this now? Well, it's because Castro wanted to check in and say, are these ruins the same thing you have in your Vatican library? So, behind the scenes, they know, so they're so far ahead.
So much. They know so much. They won't let us know, and I don't know what the purpose of that is. Why they want to control us the way they do, why they seem to have this weird kind of decision to hold on. I think my microphone's messed up. We're good. Are we good?
You sound great. You sound good.
All right. Why they seem to have this kind of death cult kind of view on everything, like these apex predators elites that we have. I don't get it. What are your thoughts on that? What, like when you look at people like Bill Gates and all these, like what are your thoughts on them? Like who are they worshiping? Who is their masters, do you think?
Well, I always go back to the mystery school literature. There's two sources, with Steiner in particular. Steiner's an interesting one. Rudolph Steiner is a mystic, Austrian, and he was around. He started anthroposophy, so Waldorf schools and all that stuff. He started all that. What he did, he has incredible things. He created biodynamic farming, eurythmy, and all these different things. One of the things that he wanted to peer into the nature of what was happening in the future. And when you look at his work, it is like a preview of everything we're seeing in the headlines now. But what he talked about was a force of Ahrimanic technology. And the term Ahriman was something he used over and over again. When I looked into it, it's a Persian devil, literally. And Ahriman is something that comes through the technology and sort of separates humanity from its spiritual side and makes it totally technological. And he has a sphere in the cosmology called the eighth sphere, where, the Ahrimanic trance basically lands you in the eighth sphere and you think you're in reality. You're in their weird virtual reality, and it interrupts humanity's spiritual evolution. So this kind of flash forward that Steiner did, I always go back to this Ahriman part because it explains a lot. And there's also a preview in there. He's writing in 1920, and all the technological advances are all 21st century, the things that he's foreseeing in the future. So that is a spiritual battlefield of a sense. And I think it gets into a control place. And at a certain point, Steiner said, the biggest secret for many years that the mystery schools held was about the eighth sphere. So they didn't let it out until the time was right. And so now we're rolling into this period of time, which is, it's anybody's game. And I think the root of it is ultimately they want to go up, the chain there, the spiritual chain, and they want to kind of short circuit the process. They don't want to have to go through the stages of spiritual evolution. They want to go up the tree of life, and there's a whole thing, if you study the tree of life symbology, about mineral and projecting the animal from the mineral, and that's a huge stage. Well, that is the human body as the animal going into the mineral computer android kind of form. They believe it. Yeah, they for sure believe it. And that's part of this whole thing about wanting everyone chipped and wanting you to become, enhanced and things of this nature, because they think they're going from animal to mineral and going up that chain. But they don't like the idea of going up and, being spiritually advanced. They like the idea of being who they are, super intellectually capable, and, going into this whole thing about being technologically advanced and going up that tree of life. That's their occult religion. And, there's a real side to the tree of life, and then there's their version. So I think that's where it lands us. It helps explain part of the whole trip that they're on, because depopulation is such a heavy side of it. And that seems to me super normal. It's supernatural, the fascination around it. So the Ahrimanic thing, I think that really...
Dude, I looked it up. That's crazy because it's from Zoroastrianism, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of get into Mithra and the Statue of Liberty and how that's prevalent everywhere.
Oh,
and how,
absolutely, yeah.
How like the Statue of Liberty is a dude and dressed in drag, and that kind of what we're seeing everywhere in our pop culture. Everybody live their life. I don't care, but that seems to be being forced all over the place. It fits into that, like this ancient religion. And then you get into this Ahriman, which is a lot of people think is kind of the devil from Christianity or the the Abrahamic religions.
It's interesting. Crazy, Steiner did a sculpture of Ahriman. If you look up Ahriman sculpture Steiner, you're going to see his version of it. And he said while he was doing it, he was tuned into Ahriman, and he started to feel like he was in heavy concrete. And the picture is pretty terrifying. If you ever see that sculpture he did of Ahriman, this was his mystical vision of the thing that he was talking about.
What was the name of it?
So it's Ahriman, and
sculpture?
Then Steiner sculpture. Yeah. When you see this, I wonder what you think of this.
Oh, here it is. Oh, man.
That's Ahriman, according to Steiner.
Dude, and that looks so much like these alien things that... Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a mystical vision there. He's seeing something. No question about it.
Wow.
Right?
Bro. Is that it?
Yeah. Okay. So the first one, that's not actually the full image. If you go to the left there, You see the one further over to
Is
the
it just the
left.
head? Is that the one you're talking about? That's the
Yeah.
head. Yeah, just put in here we go, XG. I'll put this to you. Just put this in and it's crazy, dude. Just put this into the Google and you'll find it right there. It's crazy, and it looks exactly like, in a weird way, these aliens, in a weird way,
Yeah.
what people the original wow, that's kind of crazy. The original Dracula in the movie kind of looks like him. Yeah,
There
the
it is.
face.
Far left. That's it. Bingo.
Oh, like Nosferatu. Yeah.
yeah, that's
look
a
at that,
sculpture.
dude.
19.
Wow.
He drew that in 19. He sculpted it in 1916.
Creepy.
So this is quite an image. That's what he got. And it's interesting because when he said, as he tuned into it, he felt heavy, like he was in concrete.
Density.
But
Low
the
vibrational.
the Armon force, this dark astral force, was coming through advanced technology, and he was looking at it for our century. So I think that is where, on the mystical side, we go on that.
Looks like the bad guy in Flash Gordon. What's his name? Do you remember?
Ming the Merciless, dude.
Yes, Ming the Merciless. Yeah.
God, that shit movie is so good. I can't believe they haven't remade it.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
Star Wars is really a ripoff of Flash Gordon, if you think about
Oh,
it.
you think so?
Well, George Lucas admits he was greatly influenced by Flash
I
Gordon.
think Guardians of the Galaxy is a giant ripoff of Flash Gordon. That's why they haven't remade it. They're like, how do we
why
just
remake
not
it when you can just rip it off? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Not owe any,
Yeah.
but wow, man. This has been an absolutely incredible interview. I could interview you for hours, dude. You're, you know, and I mean this in the most respectful way. Very polished, dude. Like, you should do like meditation seminars or like be a voiceover on an app to chill people out. Like, I could listen to you talk forever. What is the name of your podcast so we could send our listeners to find it? Because I could listen to you talk forever.
It's Dark Journalist. And on Friday nights at 8 p.m., I do a 3-hour show. It's on YouTube, and I call it the X series, the X steganography series. And but if you can find it just by looking for Dark Journalist, and we do a show there. Everyone who comes in is in the ideas room. They contribute, and it's a really, we go deep on a lot of subjects, and we have the Hacking Atlantis, Craze in the Hot Zone documentary out there. We're putting out the Berkner Antarctica one on JFK's anniversary.
Dude, that is so crazy, that story. Like, dude, you just dropped bomb after bomb after bomb. Like, yeah, dude, just when you think you know.
Yeah.
What? Oh, you think you know the JFK? You think there was a bullet? Well, I think it was I think it was Meyer Linsky and the crime syndicate. And then you're like, bang, dog. Aliens, dude. Aliens came in and just dropped Hammer of the Gods on everybody. And it's crazy, dude. It's so crazy. And like if you had the final question at the center of this, I don't want to say it's a rotten onion or whatever the world of conspiracy is. What do you think the center of that is? If you had to guess, like the nucleus for all things, like, I used to think it was God, fallen angels, war on God, but I'm starting to think, based on you, that the timeline is even crazier.
Yeah, there is. It's interesting because the war in heaven thing is an interesting echo. I mean, the Tower of Babel story, if you really get into it, sounds exactly like what's going on right now. And it's interesting because even though that's in the Bible and the whole thing about the Bible is the one God, it said the gods got together and reasoned among themselves. Well, if humanity is going to be able to do whatever they imagine to do, this is going to be a problem. Let's go down and confound their language. Well, our language has been pretty confounded. Right now, people can't even really have a discussion. Right?
Yeah. Wow, I never even thought about that. That's even crazier than making everybody speak different language. Now you make everything a fight.
Yes. And this is in a lot of the mystery school literature talks about the war of all against all. And the final outcome of that war is your right side goes to war with your left side physically. So you, the being, are at war. So you have forces operating. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we've highlighted a lot of the kind of the darker forces coming in, but you have an incredible balance between dark and light going on, and it is the clash. There's no doubt it's the clash of forces, and it's funny because it rolls down to us in technology and geopolitics, and all the cultural developments and all the rest. But it takes place in that deep kind of astral space.
That was crazy, dude. The war of all against all. That is so crazy that it totally makes sense. It's like this giant battle royal of all ideas, all beliefs, all people, just going to the center square and just everyone just wailing on each other and nobody ever getting along, ever.
Yeah.
That is so crazy, bro.
And it serves a power force. So it serves something else that, if humanity gets together and throws off Ahriman, if humanity gets together and throws off a kind of dark astral thing, you can't imagine the kind of things we're capable of.
Dude,
right?
That is the deepest shit I've ever heard, man. That is so 100% correct. All of it is like, if you're just dividing at all, you're part of this war of all against all, dude. That is incredible, dude. That is incredible. That was a great way to end the interview, man. Thank you so much, Dark Journalist, for coming on, dude. I could talk to you forever. You're definitely taking a shot at what we call the Mount Crushmore of tinfoil hat. I would have you back anytime you want to, like, slum it with us and come by as you're dressed in a suit and we're all wearing sweatpants. You're more than welcome to come by anytime. One more time, whatever you're promoting, let us know one more time. What do you want people to check out? I'll make sure it's in the links below.
Oh, fantastic. darkjournalist.com. And the documentary is Hacking Atlantis, The Craze in the Hot Zone. And we do the Dark Journalists show, and it's on Friday nights at 8 p.m. on YouTube.
So is the doc, is it just on YouTube or is it on Amazon, or where do you want people to go to find it?
You can find it on Rumble and you can find it on YouTube.
Bang. There you go. Bang,
Fantastic.
bang.
It's great to be on here. And as I've told you, I'm a fan of the Tinfoil Hat podcast and tune in regularly.
Dude, that just melts my dead heart. Thank you so much. You're so kind. I'm such a huge fan. After this conversation, dude, I'm a huge fan of you. I don't really listen to people's podcasts, but I'm going to be honest with you. Like, after listening to you, I think I'm going to start finally having something I could listen to. So thank you very much. And let's break down this episode. What?
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know. The
Come
shrooms
on,
can't help
dude.
me. The shrooms ain't helping me with this one.
Dude, this guy's
mind-blowing.
tripping shrooms. You don't even need shrooms to trip balls off this. Dark Journalist came and just put his big conspiracy dick on the table. Okay.
We should honestly just have him back next month or something, like before the holidays, because that
Dude, I could listen to that guy talk for hours. This is how I felt bad having him keep talking. I was like, dude, I feel bad. We're wasting this guy's time. He's just too good for us.
To do. Yeah, he's doing real investigations here. He's learning things.
What?
Instead of
This
wasting time
dick
with us.
joke show.
Oh.
Well, how did we get this guy? It was such a. I mean, dude, you'll hear us say taking a shot at Mount Rushmore. This is it. This guy is taking a shot.
Wait, are you saying we don't mean it most of the time?
No, I mean, I think sometimes we throw it around a little too much because
Mount Rushmore has 4 people on it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, we're going to be like the NBA. We're not going to kick anyone off in the next. If you made the top, you're in. We're just going to add new people to the bottom.
Well, maybe we have okay, so it's Mount Crushmore. It's not Mount. So we call it.
Yeah,
that.
Mount Crushmore.
Maybe
we can have anything we want.
The top 4 is up every year nominated, and then we have a rolling list that kind of fills out the rest.
What we do is, like, every 500 episodes, we name who are the top 4 of the 500 episodes. And if you already made the first one, you don't go on the second one. We don't kick anybody off.
You don't go on the second one. Interesting. But
like, you don't want somebody to be
Isaac Weissman
has come 3-time all crushed it, right? How many times he crushed it?
Right, but what I'm saying, you don't want him to be
doubling up.
You don't want him to be like a 3-time All-Pro, like a 3-time Mount Crushmore. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can nominate that, but I think on the Mount we should only have a new 4.
But this guy came in
but
hot.
once we get to 3,000 episodes, I mean, it might be hard.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to need a whole new mountain.
No, what I'm saying is if we might not have enough people, you know what I mean? How many people are there that are really Crushmore?
Then there's no Crushmore, dog. Then it's like, to this 500, we didn't have anyone who made
it. Could be Mount Crush less.
Nobody was interesting for this last 500 episodes. Nobody was interesting at all.
I mean, don't you think it's weird that America hasn't added a new face? Not that anybody deserved it, but we just stopped at 4.
Who are you going to get? Who are you going to get? All right, dude. I might have jumped the gun on the net. So we're at 127. By the end of the month, we'll be at 850. So the question is, can we hurl 850? So that'll be 150 episodes. So I don't know if we're going to make it in 20. I thought we were going to make it in 2025.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, how many have we done this year? Where did we start? Let's see.
You would need 75 weeks technically.
All right. So at the beginning of
need three a week for the entire 150.
Let's see what our rate, because you did some bonus ones this year and stuff. At the beginning of this year, we were at number 737.
So we're just below it. We're
just below it.
We're at 90. So if we did, do we do 3 a week and just press, bro?
Well, we still have 2 months left, right? Which is
that'll bang on another
2 months.
8. More than 2 months.
So we would have 8 episodes. 8 episodes.
We'll hit 100 this year, right? Won't we?
If you what was it? Yeah, we'll hit 100.
And we did a couple lives too. I don't know if the lives count.
That's true. We didn't add that.
Well, I don't. The lives don't count to the number, so
no. Yeah, you're right. True.
Tempo had lives numbered separately. I'm just talking about Tempo. We were at 730, so yeah, we're 10 short. And do you think we'll do 10 by the end of the year?
Easy.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Easy, yeah.
And we'll get to 100 then. So we could at the end of the year. Do you want it to be around the holidays? That was another question you have to ask.
No, so basically it will be around. I think after the 500 will be around 2 Super Bowls from now.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Around February, right after February.
Yeah.
Depends on how many emergency episodes Sam does between.
Yeah, that's true.
It's gonna be a crazy year. It will be a crazy year.
It's like,
and listen, dude, I'm telling you, this show is fucking fire. I don't care. Like, it's fire, dude.
All right, what was your favorite topic? Well, if you had to say everything,
I did do the wrap up, and I thought we'd get to the thousands by the end of next year. And you never know. We may. You don't know. You don't know me, homie. I may hurl towards that. You don't know. I was thinking about it. What were some of my favorites? I mean, I really loved the weather modification episodes. I feel like the first one that Jim Lee and Topher Gardner came on was probably one of the best episodes we've ever done. Jay Dyer's episode on British intelligence in Islam is one of my favorites. This we just recorded is in there, one. Banging, dog. The dark journalist. Dude,
I really like the Flint water crisis episode.
That was great too. It's like, look at us getting all serious with our journalism. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the best we've ever done, dude.
Trying to look at some of these.
I love when smart people come on here and they say the things I know, but I'm not smart enough to say it properly. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like real smart people with really good vocabularies.
Well, they also have way more time than you to research these. It's not like you have time to sit around and do all this research either.
Yeah, I'm trying to look over. The Vanilla Sky one was great.
That was a good one too.
Yeah, Isaac's had a couple of good ones.
Every day is the Roman the Roman Empire one was great.
I thought Austin Whitsitt gave us a good performance on the
flat Austin Whitsitt, a lot of people talking about him right now.
Yeah.
Is he going to go to Antarctica?
He said he was, right? Yeah, I say props to him for doing it if he is, because so many of those guys are on the record saying that if they go down there and the sun circles the sky for 24 hours, flat Earth, they're going to have to reevaluate their model, not necessarily believe it's round, but something else. And now for them to say, oh no, like they're coming up with these crazy excuses for getting out
I
of
think
it.
he said he would do. I
No,
think there's
Austin
two
is.
guys-
No, and I just praised him. Yeah, Austin has agreed to do it. But so many of these other, and the guy Jaron from Jaronism is also going to do it. And then
Yeah,
Candace,
Jaronism's great.
Candace
He's a
Owens
great guy,
is
too.
sending her director there to shoot it. And so she's
I
wow,
love
really?
Candace
About it.
Owens. I
Yeah.
love that shit. We gotta
Those
get
are the
Candace
three,
Owens
though.
on here.
The only three that have either responded or not denied the opportunity. They've accepted the opportunity. And then you have all these Globers that are wanting to
The
go.
Archivist, when he came in Buried
Yes.
Empires, that was an all-time banger.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's
Jamie
see.
Deluxe with Jay Dyer was a good one when they came on.
That
the-
was a
on
great
Disney
one.
stuff, yeah.
That was a great one. That was a great one.
Tony was good. Tony Arterburn talking about the Fed.
Yeah, that's a great
Narco
one.
Longo, man. Come on.
Narco Longo always
yeah,
brings
of course,
it.
Florida. When he talks about Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some all-time bangers. The Smiley Face Killer, you know,
Bloodstow's killing it right now.
with William Ramsey and Recluse. That was a great episode. Yeah, so we've had some bangers, dude. Because this is where the bangers bang, bro.
Oh, what's his name who does the videos that everybody's jealous of? The guy.
Oh,
Ian Carroll.
yeah,
Ian Carroll.
Ian Carroll, who I go to war for. I go to war for because I think he's great. This like notion of like everybody's a controlled op right now. It's just,
There are a
it's
couple
like
of
it's,
even. Go ahead.
it's well, what's interesting to me, Johnny and Xavier, is that it's like a great example of a controlled op is RFK Jr. in my humble opinion. It's like he says everything you want to hear, and then he just goes fully retarded on Israel. Like that to me is when Johnny thoughts. Johnny.
I mean, does that mean that he's controlled opposition, or does that mean he's actually true to what he believes? Because that's not convenient for him. It doesn't help him politically. It torpedoed his campaign, really.
Okay, interesting, Johnny, because I could also be like, my whole thing is like, what makes him controlled op?
He lost his following. I mean, because of that, really.
It's interesting, but is that kind of the game that gets played where like
Maybe.
is that any different than when we see like Jennifer Lawrence coming out going, if you love Trump, don't come to my movies, and her career just completely cratered because they call in those favors, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, could be. It's hard to know. It's hard to know, man.
Hard to know.
It's like
hard to
Jordan
know,
Peterson.
dude.
Like, what's his deal? I don't know.
Yeah, what is his deal? What
I like
up
so many of
with that?
You can't deny he's helped a lot of young men out of dark places. I know a few of them myself. But he's got these.
Oh,
weird-
you know who was great, guys? And this is way back in the day. Joe Atwell, when he did all that Freemasonry stuff from way
Was that this year?
back. Yes, it was early in it was January 11th.
What was that guy? It's not really. It's because it was so topical. It's probably not Crushmore level, like just because of it was like. But it was so great having what was his name, Canon Hotep for that bridge thing. Remember?
Oh yeah,
at the
that
bridge
was a great
when
one.
it was happening. That
That
was
was an all-time great.
That was
Yeah,
just
this episode by Dark Journalist. You can't. It's not it's Dark Journalist. Like his first name's Dark. His last name's Journalist. Dark
Jeff
Journalist.
Wilson was good.
Yeah, dude. We had some bangers, dude.
We had Greg Fitzsimmons on. We're not even mentioning him because he was kind of afraid to talk about things because of his, he's in Hollywood. I mean, like, what can he?
I love Greg. He's
Funny guy, but I mean, like, that shows you the level of dialogue we've had on the show this year.
I mean, like, I was supposed to do a show. He never got me a new date ever.
Yeah, well, I think he was after he heard the kind of conversations we were in. He got a little scared.
I'm going to do Rogan this weekend, but I can't do.
Greg Fitzsimmons.
No. I just was on Kill Tony. I can't, whatever. I love them. To each their own. Live your life.
Your Ryan Sickler episode was great.
Was it? Thank you. I never know. I feel like I'm doing well, but
yeah.
I felt like I did good on Kill Tony, but you just listen to the comments. They're just like, Tony's gay. Tony's gay. Hans Kim is fucking a retard.
What do you think that is? What is that? Why is that? Is it just because they kind of it's a roast kind of?
I just think when you get that big of a show, you just bring in the crazies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, you remember you used to say about Punch Drunk that it had kind of a shit talk energy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And that show has no one has a bigger energy of shit talking than Kill Tony. So it ends up in the comments too.
Yeah.
Have you heard that Shab is challenging? Is like I'll murk Nate Diaz. Have you heard that?
What do you think about that? Someone that does jujitsu now. Do you think who do you think is what's his name is out of line? Because he called him out first. He called Brendan Schaub an idiot or some shit like that. And Brendan Schaub, yeah.
Listen, I mean, like Shab is a fucking juggernaut.
Yeah,
he's a juggernaut, dude. He's a heavyweight juggernaut. He's like 240, bro. What weight class does Diaz fight at?
Well, I mean, if he got in shape, it would be different. But what, like,
I don't even think he walks around at 170. Maybe 180.
No, I think he walks around probably around 190. Probably can cut down to 170.
I mean,
maybe 200 at the most.
What's the cutoff for that these days?
Like I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan,
okay,
but you know, Shab's my friend. I get why Shab said that, and he got really passionate towards the end of it, and I was like, ooh.
He was 171 for his last fight with Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, like he's you know, Diaz brothers are great. But Shab is like a fucking high-end athlete, dude. Like a high-end athlete. Like top 10 heavyweight at the time, top 10 heavyweight. You know, I mean,
yeah, there's a reason for weight classes.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And he says it. He says it, dude. And like, you know, I don't know, man. By the way, Shab's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You know how hard that is?
Was he when he was fighting, do you know, or is that a new thing?
No, I think he was when he was fighting. He was just, you see him in there with these fucking Amazons, dog. Like crazy. I don't know, man. I love Shab. I wish the internet would just give him a break and let him just fucking live his life.
He doesn't do himself any favors, though.
No, the other day he did the other day he said the funniest thing. He said he went to go watch the Joker 2, and he said that the comment section was worse than his own special. And I was like, it just got to laugh. And I was like, there we go. Like, you fucking own up to it. And then everyone started laughing. I was like, that's what's up.
That's so funny, dude. I love him though, dude. He really is a good guy. I know people have this view of him. He really is a nice guy, dude. He really is a nice guy. If you go to, hey guys, thank you to everybody who's buying my special. Unfortunately, people have been giving it away on the internet. It sucks. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But if you want to support so I can help pay off this thing, I'm not looking to make money on it. I'm just trying to just pay some of it off. I want to thank Tony Arterburn from Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for putting up a chunk of cash to help me make this thing happen. Without Wise Wolf, I don't know where I'd be. But check out SamTripoli.com. The feedback has been great. I mean, even on the guy that uploaded it, there was like one negative comment. And it was like, not worth $10. But everyone else is like, this is the best special I've heard all fucking year. Oh, this is amazing. It's great. And I hate copy striking people because, I'm so shadow banned. Put it wherever you want. But it's like, once it's out, you can do whatever you want with it. I don't really give a shit. All right. I don't really care. I mean, even when my N-word joke was going, dude, this twink made like so much money off me. He got 14 million views off my video. I didn't cry. I didn't give me my,
well, he's putting it uncensored. And the whole point of people getting it from you is that they're going to get the censored version there too. That's kind of, I think that you should maybe let them put it out the censored version, but not the uncensored, because that's,
well, we're beeping it right now. It's going to be out, and
they have AI that'll do. I wanted my little nephew.
Dana, dude, guys, hand to God, Dana went through and asked me what she wants, what I want beeped. She found 150 questionable beeps. So it will literally be like Morse code. My beep, 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 beep.
My nephew wanted to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, and I ran it through this AI that just beeps all the curses out of it. It takes like 30 minutes.
That's great.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's
I still had to edit it down some, but some of the sexual stuff.
You're a good uncle, Johnny.
That is really, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
You're the best, buddy. Guys, go to SamTripoli.com. Get my special there. See me live. I'm going to start putting together some dates for the 2025, the end of the world tour. Let's go, bro. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tampa Bay, Florida at Side Splitters, Cancun, Mexico, Jiu-Jitsu. Go grab tickets at SamTripoli.com. Premium content's been on fire, dude. I'm sorry. Like, dude, we're listening to the Unabomber's Manifesto. Yeah. When you turn 50, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, I think he's right on. Kids are retards. Yeah. And then we got all the specials there, and you can't even see the dangerous there. We don't even list it there because of all these fucking garbage people out there. So it's $8. You get everything. You can also do $15 on Rockfin. You can do $5 on locals, $8 on Substack because I'm putting a bunch on there too. That's that. Cash Daddies is on fire. Check that out. We'll hopefully do one this week. Johnny was a little under the weather, so we couldn't do it this week. I put down some money for the second episode of Chaos Twins. So it's in the books. It's going.
Nice.
And they're drawing it right now. So that we'll be putting up a GoFundMe to so you can reserve your issue right now. And if this sells well, we'll just keep going, dude. And yes, guys, the animation, they're working on it right now in terms of the storylines and all that stuff. So that is happening. If you want, oh, by the way, I have this new thing I'm going to do on the road called the Dangerous shirt, where I'm going to sell a shirt on the road and you can't see what it is until you buy it. And you're not allowed to see it until you leave. I sold out of my real nigga t-shirts. People loved it. It's just
you gotta tell people not to show other people.
You can't show anybody.
Don't show anybody. Don't buy it and then be like, look.
What do you mean? You can't wear it?
Out.
No, not to get home.
You gotta leave with it. And then when you get wherever you want, you can look at it.
You're gonna put it in a black bag. You should put it in a black bag. You should have black, just special black plastic bags for just the dangerous
shit. Yeah, that's expensive and a lot of work. And
I'm trying to do expensive. You get 1,000 bags.
At least amount of work as I can. Like we said at the beginning, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver, SamTripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil. Get in the precious metals game. Rife Technology, we gotta get him back on. I gotta make that happen. Get that promo code going. Alkakura Hydrogen Brown Gas. Get your hydrogen. They're depleting it from our air. That's why we're aging so quickly. Harley Ray. That's right. Harley Ray. Candles, crystals, sage, all that. Gorgeous website by gorgeous people. Chemical Free Body. About to go take it right now. Tim James is a G. About to go take it right now. Helping dads get in shape. Johnny and I are both working on going to lose 10 pounds this week. Johnny's already winning because I've already ate like shit today. So,
they're not losing 10 pounds this week. Before Thanksgiving, we're losing 10.
Before Thanksgiving. Thank you, Johnny.
Is this documented? Like we got like,
well, we know what our weight is. And then,
I'm 205.
I'm going to be 10 pounds less than that number. So.
Dude, I would love to be, I would have to get to Johnny's weight to get to the weight I want. I just don't know if it's possible.
My weight now, 188, is where
he's what I dream of. Johnny's fat is what I dream of.
Well, you're taller than me though. You're like at least 2 inches taller than me, right?
It's very funny. That reminds me of the joke I did back in the day, where on my first special about the chick in AA who was like talking about her bottoming out, which was her waking up from a blackout in a lesbian bondage threesome.
I know where this is going.
And I'm like, that's your rock bottom. My Pornhub search engine is your rock bottom.
The greatest night of my life. My life will be your rock bottom.
The story I will tell my children for the rest of my life. And then I woke up with 3 lesbians doing bondage. Grandpa, shut up. It's Thanksgiving. Hear my stories. I won't be around much longer. EMF rocks. Get into those bags, dude. Fight that dirty electricity. Prometheus, if you need a decentralized website like I have here, and if Dude, who asked the best question today? What was your question again that you
Bob
asked?
Lazar. I brought up Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
And that was all
You
thanks
know
to
what's gonna happen next.
Brain Supreme.
Brain Supreme.
Ooh,
This dude is
baby.
clicking. They also hold on. The guys
Give
at
me a
Brain
minute.
Supreme hit me up. Hold on. Hey, Sam, would you like to do a Hollywood flash sale at Brain Supreme? We could offer 25% off discount from October 25th through November 1st. All of course, blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you're interested. We are interested.
Woo-hoo! Discount.
That's so funny, Johnny. That's so funny. Sam Wakefield, thank you. Nuke Social, dude. You know, no censorship. Go hard in the paint. I just don't want it to be. I had a guest on my premium content telling me he goes to BitChute for his information. I go, dude, that is a war zone. That comment section is a war zone. You're getting Nazis dropped on you real quick. Only Conspiracies Telegram. Join Conspiracies Only. We're almost at 4,000 people on there. So join us. Xavier Guerrero goes on there every day and just checks in. Go down every day. The audio's there. Check out the audio. Go down. Radio show. If you want to hear my lovely voice 24/7, you can listen to there. Go down one more time. And my specials and all that stuff. Anything else, guys?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and We Don't Smoke the Same had a body suspension guy come on and do acid, so go over there. We Don't Smoke the Same.
I don't even know what that means.
Body suspension. Those people that hang.
Oh,
he thinks it's spiritual. Yeah, he thinks it's spiritual.
Oh,
It's
Wait. The people that like put those hooks in their bodies?
He came on our podcast and literally.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
New Broken Sam is out. Sam talked about his trip to kill Tony. We get into whether he's going to be followed by President Trump on Joe Rogan when Sam's coming back on Rogan. And we got into this crazy Jay-Z Beyonce conspiracy, which is, check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out.
That's it. It's wherever you guys podcasts. It's available.
Wherever you listen, enjoy it and enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
What is her win since not shitting the bed in the debate? What is the win? That's
the last one. Yeah. I mean, and she's even lost ground. And it's funny watching liberals struggle with why this is happening, but she's losing ground with Hispanics and blacks pretty rapidly.
Yeah. Well,
now, she's still winning them. She's still winning them by and large, like by a lot. But she is losing ground, and they just cannot come to grips with why that would happen. They're like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, hey, maybe Hispanic people also want to have a secure border, and not
You know what I mean? Like, what? Dude, one thing everyone loves doing is closing the door behind them. Okay, it's like, don't let these fucking savages in. Holy shit!
That's it.
Shut the fucking border down, dude. These fucking crazy people.
So funny.
It's nuts, dude. Yeah, and it's just like, and then it's so interesting, the media's reaction to stuff, and it's like, it's so obvious how some people can say certain things and some people can't, and it's like, what makes me really laugh is how basically Obama said, if you ain't black, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you ain't black, and like, the only people who got upset with that were black people. Like, the media did not just totally rip that apart like they did when Biden did it. It's like crazy to me. And it's like, this is the greatest inversion I've ever seen in my life. It's like there are no rules. There are no rules. When Dick Cheney is fucking stumping for a Democrat, like, how crazy is that? And I'm all for it, dude. The weirder, the better, man. As a podcaster, this is the best thing ever.
It is weird. That's one way to put it.
I'm just getting more and more and more and more right, and they'll never admit it.
Well, Cheney, I can't believe that his endorsement did they really want that even? It has no value, sure.
Dude, she bragged about she had her daughter like stumping for her at an event and then praised her father.
This guy is Darth Vader, like our real world version of Darth Vader. There's nobody as bad as that guy on this planet.
There's nobody. Like, it's him and Bill Gates are in a real fucking battle for who one is Satan's left nut, and then the other one is Satan's right nut. You know, and they're just it's unbelievable.
That means Steve Ballmer is Satan's right nuts marketing.
Okay, dude. No, he's a good guy. He got out and he just cares. He just cares. So Johnny, what do you want to get into? Because we haven't done it in a week. I've done some stuff. Gonna do some stuff.
Should we talk to Mike real quick? Or do you
What's that? Oh yeah, you want to get in the mic, and then I'm going to tell you some story about the comedy store last night, killed Tony, and all that stuff. But I really want you guys to. We don't have a lot of. We hear you guys. You love when Johnny and I just chop it up, but once in a while, a good friend of mine has a project that I really want to help them out with, and I know if they have great stories, you guys would love to hear. Yeah. So and I've been dropping the hints about this story that involved me and Mike Young forever. And I saw Mike at the comedy store, and I was like, dude, you got to come on and tell this story. So he comes on, and dude, I'm gonna tell you, it's not even the best story he tells in this little segment that we got right now. It was only supposed to be about 15 minutes long, but dude, this is a great storytelling interview. So quick, my boy, he's got his movie Stealing Jokes coming out, and he's on the rock comedy tour. I want you guys to enjoy this. Please enjoy this interview we did with my good friend Mike Young. Yeah, the rock comedy tour and Steve Young in Stealing Jokes movie. Enjoy this interview with Mike Young. All right, so you've been hearing me talk about this story forever on this show. We finally, I was at the comedy store the other day, and I saw this, one of my favorite people. And I'm like, hey, dude, we got to get you on the show. I've been talking about this story about Florida forever. And he's like, yeah, let's come on. So I'm very excited to have him on. He's got a movie out right now that he wrote and directed, I believe, at Stealing Jokes. And he's on tour right now with the rock comedy tour. My man, Mike Young. How are you, Mike? Mike, can you hear me?
Good, SamTripoli. Okay. What's up, bro?
Okay, dude. I love you.
I can
buddy.
hear you.
Okay, good. It's good to see you. You're one of the OGs at the comedy store. Been around for a while, doing everything. So, what's going on, dude? What's new?
Just finished my. Thanks for the intro, by the way. Strong intro. We had a great class coming in. Me, you, Bobby Lee, Sebastian, Brett. That was a strong comedy store class.
That was.
I have been up to writing and directing and touring. We had a strong class, bro. I'll put that class up against any class. You know what I mean? That's a class.
I will get into some of the stuff at the store right now, but here's the thing, Mike. You got this movie out right now. It's called Stealing Jokes, and you're on a rock comedy tour.
Stealing Jokes.
And you always put these tours together, and you always get some of your boys together and you go on tour and you do shows, and you're doing one right now. But one of the original ones you did was way back in the day. What was the name? I know we're on a little delay with you right now, but what is the name of the tour that we went on?
The Young American Comedy Tour.
Yeah, we were young back then. It was the Young American.
By the way, we were barely young.
So we
go to Young American. It was the Young American Comedy Tour.
It was me. We'd done Arizona, which was, I forget, it was me, you, and Jordy, who was at the time the kingmaker, Jordy Fox. He was like the kingmaker at MySpace. He was blowing everybody. This is how long ago this was, Johnny. MySpace was kind of new, and Jordy Fox, who was Jordy Fox he works with All Things Comedy right now, and he had this weird thing at the comedy store where he would just showcase forever, and they just, for some reason, he didn't get picked up, and then he finally got picked up, and it was just a big deal. These kids today, they'll do one showcase, not get picked up, and swear off the comedy store. Ari had the showcase literally 40 times to get picked up by Mitzi Shore. It was crazy, right? So we do Tempe, and then you're like, let's go to Fort Lauderdale. I got some boys in Fort Lauderdale. So it was me, you, and Steve Renazizi. I think it was the three of us went out. That's who it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the Young American Comedy Tour. It was all my boys. We took 3 or 4 of us every city, interchangeable. And then, yeah, one city, I was like, yo, let's go have fun. Me, Tripoli, Renazizi, let's take it out to West Palm Beach, Florida. Go hang out, get drunk, tell jokes, go to the beach, have the best time ever.
So here's something like there was a time a long time ago where I wanted to put a show together where it was like, I forgot who the third one, but it was like these 3 guys that could get chicks whenever they wanted. It was Mike Young, Sergio Love, and I forgot who the other one was. And then I was going to put Mike Black in there. It was going to be you and Mike Black in there. If you don't know Mike Black, he's like a Star Wars. He loves comic books. Let's just say he's a thick boy, right? He's a thick boy, and it was going to be the four comics who 3 of them could get pussy all the time, and then one guy who would just he could fall in love with a hooker, right? And so we would go, and the whole thing was like, who could go on tour? Whoever was the last one to get an STD won the fucking tour, right? So so Mike Young,
that's a great concept.
Mike Young is and was, I don't know if you're in a serious relationship right now, so I don't want to get you in trouble, but back in the day, for sure, Mike Young could pull women. It was incredible, dude. He was the best at it. I'm sure he still is. I don't know if he's in a serious relationship. I don't want to give him trouble, but back then he could pull it. So we go on this Young Americans tour, and Mike Young is trying to sell tickets. And so Mike Young's out there because it's his tour. He's pushing tickets. So he's walking all
in the streets.
In the streets, dude. He's
pushing in the street.
Yeah, dude. He was walking the streets, going up to anybody, telling them about the show coming up, and he sees this chick at this cafe. So Mike Young, at Starbucks. Mike Young does what Mike Young does, and he just starts going. Yeah. So you want to, like, you walk up to this chick and you kind of start slinging, right?
You were there. I mean, you were there. It was around lunchtime, afternoon. I'm slow sipping espresso. This beautiful girl is at the table for a second by herself. I'm like, hey, you like comedy? We're at the City Place right next to where the comedy club is. She's like, I love comedy. I invite her to the show. I basically just invite her to the show. You're there with me. We go back to the condo, wherever we're staying. We get ready for the show. We think nothing of it. I get the girl's number. I'm going to put her on the list. I'm going to put her on the list +1, and she's going to come to the show. Brand new fan of comedy.
So we go there, and we have a great show. Somehow another brunette shows up, and it's very important to this story. So there's another brunette there, and Mike Young is now hitting on the chick he pulled from Starbucks. The other chick's there, so I'm starting to hit on her. I'm making my move on her. Things are going good. I had a good show. It was a lot of fun. I was a wild one back then. Like, I was OR late night crazy, going into regular comedy clubs.
Oh, I got Tripoli stories. Don't worry, I know your story.
So we all have great sets. So we go to this, I don't know how, but this chick that you picked up is like, let's go over to this comedy. Let's go over this nightclub. And we're like, okay. So we grab the other brunette chick, the other guys in the show, and we go into the show. And we go on and we're hanging out, and you're talking to this chick. I decide to, because I'm divide and conquer, dog. Separate the chicks so you can hit on one over there, and you can hit over there, and we make our moves. So I go, hey, dude, I'm going down to dance. I'll be right back. I bring it out. We're dancing because I could dance. I was dancing back in the day. I had some rhythm.
Somebody's a dancer.
Yeah, I'm a dancer.
Oh, I would have killed. I've seen that.
Oh, dude, I could dance. Mostly a lot of dry humping and
what
stuff
kind of music?
Like
what are we talking about?
It was like early
hip hop.
Like Night at the Roxbury kind of
early hip hop.
That's what I meant.
Like early 2000s, I would say. This was probably like what, about 2000? What was it? 4 or 5?
This is 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
This is 8, 9.
Yeah. So it's 2008, right? And we're just and I'm on the dance floor, and I'm dancing, and suddenly I look up, and you're like, Tripoli, get up here. And I look, and your face is wrecked, bro. Just fucking like, dude, bleeding. I'm like, what the fuck? So I run this way around up to the top to where you are. Apparently, you want to tell the story from there of what happened?
Yeah. I mean, you're on the dance floor. I'm alone with this girl in a booth. And I'm literally thinking to myself, Tripoli, and I'm not kidding. I looked at her and I was like, in my mind, I was like, how great is our life? We're on the Young American tour. I got a beautiful girl. We're in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I'm with my friends. As soon as I had that thought, I felt like a hammer hit me in the head.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.